trying his...
Well, hello everybody and welcome along to Long Beach, California for round number 4 of the Porsche Deluxe Carrera Cup North America. John Hindhaugh and Jeremy Shaw with you as this 2023 season continues with the biggest single manufacturer series across the world. We're on the left-hand coast with 1.968 miles and 11 corners to negotiate in a 40-minute contest that will once again, I'm sure, set the streets alight. We had great entertainment yesterday, not without incident, one has to say, and we have just slightly depleted the grid. Turn 1, always an action area. Turn 8 was where it all happened yesterday, and has taken a couple of cars out of the race. Opportunities for overtaking at the final hairpin as well. The long curving front straight of Shoreline Drive is where the cars are gridded up, and the engines will be starting in just a moment or two's time. And we have the spectacle, both visual and oral, of the flat 6 4-litre Porsche 992 Cup cars on the street, currently parked with their tails into the wall. The IMSA officials and Johnny Knott's right at the front of the field, just holding them back. The engines have been fired and they will roll off behind the 911 992 Turbo in the Deluxe colours, and pole position for Tom Sargent. We'll just see them roll away before we run down the grid for you. What a sight it is. And there is the McElrea racing car leading off the grid. Tom Sargent inducted into the Bathurst Hall of Fame at the National Motor Museum at the final corner of Mount Panorama for his win last year in the High-Tech Oils Bathurst 6 hours. Jeremy Shaw, well, I think we can say good evening now, can't we, as we bring the Long Beach Grand Prix weekend to a close. Let's have a look at how they'll line up for the grid. I said we're slightly depleted, we've lost a few cars.
That's right, John. We've lost probably 4 cars since the start of the weekend. Number 23, PJ Hyatt, Alan Metney, whose birthday it is today, decided to go home and spend it with his family after a win yesterday, so lots to celebrate. Jason Hart and Michael McCarthy also won't be starting for their crash yesterday. So 31 cars at the back. Number 83 is James McCann. Row 15, Todd Parriott in car number 89, and Michael Merritt in car number 63. Row 14, Scott Noble in car number 10, and Christian Cole in car number 27. Chris Palomo in number 68 and John Getz in number 57 will share row 13. Ahead of them, Kyle Washington in car number 32, and Mark Kwame, the AM pole sitter, in car number 43. Number 44, Moise Uretsky will start 22nd alongside Efren Castro in car number 65. 2 more Pro-Am contenders on row 10, Jeff Mosing in car number 56, and a pole sitter for the first time for ACI Motorsports in car number 82 is Marco Cironi, who won on the road yesterday but was later penalised for a false start, so he lost that win. 18th on the grid, Varun Choksi in car number 13, alongside him Jake Peterson in car number 85. Stefan Radzinski in car number 93 and Elias De La Torre in car number 4 will share row 8. Sabra Cook in car number 37 and Sean Varwig in number 2 on row 7. Dan Clark is 12th on the grid in car number 64. Alongside Thomas Neveu from Canada in car number 24. Ryan Yardley from New Zealand in car number 78, and Thomas Merrill in car number 47 will share row 5. Grant Torquay, who didn't start yesterday, had a fire extinguisher problem, but that car is ready to go today. That's car number 81, alongside Travis Wiley in car number 77. Jimmy Libre in car number 74 and Alex Sedgwick from the UK in car number 98 will share row 3. Will Martin, also from England for JDX Racing in car number 9, will start 4th alongside Michael McCann. He had his career best 3rd place finish yesterday for McCann Racing. That's car number 8. Riley Dickinson, yesterday's winner in car number 53 for Kelly Moss, is 2nd along the pole position. Tom Sargent from McElrea Racing in car number 17.
And the cars are side by side. Watch the white car with the green stripe as the green flag is in the air. Riley Dickinson trying to get down the inside of Tom Sargent, who pulls across to the right-hand side. That's absolutely fine. Defends the position. Oh, somebody right up against the wall, and it's broken the car. And that is, I think, is that the number 9? Will Martin? I think it might be. He's gone straight on at turn 1. There's steering damage on the left front of that car. He was pushed up against the wall. They filtered through almost single file through the fountain. It really is only one line through there, and there's going to be an accident at turn 4, and it's the Apex number 77 car of Travis Wiley who was pushed around there, facing the wrong direction. Everyone has missed him, so drama in the early part of this 40-minute contest, and there's another spinner, and this time it's the purple and pink number 44 Moisia Reski, the accelerating performance car that's gone down. And it was in fact Michael McCann of McCann Racing that went straight on at turn 1. My apologies to Will Martin and JDX Racing, who was right in front of his teammate Alex Sedgwick there. But that's, for me, that was contact with the wall. Driver's right. And another incident, this time the number 4 car of Elias Del Torres, who has clipped another car on his right-hand side and folded his mirror back. That was down at turn 9. Blissfully unaware of all this and going across the start-finish line, Tom Sargent leads from Will Martin, and JDX Racing in the dark grey car in second place, and Riley Dickinson, yesterday's winner, is in third from Jimmy Labour at MDK Motorsports. Escaped the carnage as well. Grant Torquay, ACI up into 5th position, and then Sedgwick, Yardley, Thomas Merrill, Thomas Navarre and Sean Farwick. That's your top 10 on what can only be described, Jeremy Shaw, as an involving first lap, and certainly with plenty of incidents. See if we can unravel what happened. Yeah, the number 8 car just drifting out to the left-hand side wall. We talked about that long curving front straight, and it was curving rather too much for Michael McCann.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate for Michael. A tremendous run yesterday. There's a bit of a nudge there from, I think that's Thomas Merrill, who gave a bit of a helping hand to Travis Wiley, because it was Travis Wiley who nudged yesterday Michael McCarthy into a spin at turn 8 that caused that wreck at the end of the race. So, yeah, that was unfortunate for all those guys, particularly for Michael McCann. Did just a tremendous job yesterday to finish in a 3rd position. But a great start there for Will Martin to move himself up into 2nd place for JDX Racing and put some pressure on Tom Sargent. And all of a sudden, Riley Dickinson won the first 2 races of the season at Sebring from the pole, is now down in 3rd position.
With a little bit of work to do. You made the point in yesterday's race, but I'm conscious that there'll be people trackside listening to us as well as watching our live free coverage. No subscription required, by the way, for any of these races. I'll come back to that in a moment, as Sean Varwig, who was running in the top 10, is in the wall. That's turn 9. He's running to the runoff, should I say, at turn 9 and gone straight on. And that was a shame, because he'd had a decent run as well. Must have been at the end of the last lap as the leaders are coming round to that area. Now let's hope we can get that car running again, as into the pits comes Dan Clark in the 16 car, the 64 car, excuse me, 16th in Pro. So has he had some issues as well? It's been all action so far. All of these races available as we go to full course yellow. We'll see the safety car come out. Available without subscription here in the US and further afield, or by clicking the live video on imsaradio.com. And thanks to Porsche for making that available to everyone for the Porsche Deluxe Carrera Cup this year. Well, congratulations to the IMSA safety team, the AMR IMSA safety team, and our track workers for clearing up that first lap. But still more work for them to do out on the circuit, as Michael McCann's got the car back to the pits, and I'm really surprised about that, because I thought he had real damage on the left front, and he's clearly rubbed the wall, Jeremy, all the way down the left-hand side, and I think it must be the left rear that was doing some steering. The mechanics are looking at that. That was a pretty heavy clonk on the left-hand side of the car as he was going down to turn 1 at lap 1.
Yeah, it'll end his day, I think, but at least he's got it back to the pit, so he's saved himself a walk there. But yeah, that was really unfortunate. And here's a replay of that's Sean Varwig's car, I think, isn't it? Yeah, so he's contact damage to the right front on that car. So I'm not quite sure where he sustained that, because that's on the Seaside Way straight leading down between 8 and 9, but end of his race as well. So gosh, yeah, a very, very eventful first couple of laps there for these cars and drivers. Thankfully nothing too serious, but really just a collection of what were thankfully relatively minor incidents, because it's a scary track here. I mean, it's a really daunting racetrack. It's fast. There's concrete walls all the way around, so absolutely no room for a mistake. But what a shame for Michael McCann. As I said earlier on, he did the 27-year-old from Canton, Ohio, did a fabulous job yesterday to finish on the podium for the first time in that family-run team. His uncle is competing in this race as well, James McCann, or Jimmy. Jimmy is he's better known amongst that family. He's at towards the back of the field, but yeah, tremendous run for that team yesterday, but today not so much.
Yeah, and just a note as well, with Dan Clark in the pits. I have to wonder if he was the other car that was in the tyre smoke, the Michelin tyre smoke with Sean Varwig, and whether there was some side-by-side contact there into turn 9. Sean right up against the wall, driver's left, and there was another brightly coloured car there, which could have been the Nola Sport Reese Nichols machine. But, Sean getting a lift back in the rapid response AMR IMSA Porsche Cayenne, so swaps a 911 for a Cayenne Turbo, although he's only passengering there.
I think you're right there, and let's have another replay of what those two cars are coming into the corner. Well, it wasn't. I mean, the problem for number 2 car was before that.
Correct.
That's just it. You can see the smoke all the way back down the straight. So it's clearly damage, I think, there to the right front there. So yeah, not quite sure what could have happened there. Must have been something farther back down the straightaway. But shame for Sean, who completed the first lap in 10th position.
Was that the McElrea Racing car, Thomas Neveu? Was it Sabra?
Well, no, I think by then the car was slowing.
Already, yeah.
Yeah, so it was just whichever other car it was coming through. But Thomas Neveu was ahead of Sean on that first lap.
Sean's car is dragged unceremoniously away. It will just about flat toe, but again, I think the steering damage there. The guys from the AMR safety team having to manhandle that car away. It's got a flat left rear, and I suspect front steering damage. It will be a penalty, by the way, in the form of a drive-through for Thomas Merrill for Nola Sport, who tipped the Travis Wiley top racing car into the spin, heading into turn 4 out of the fountain on that first lap. So he'll have to come through. Beautiful afternoon, early evening here. 64 degrees on the track and in the air, Fahrenheit, that's 18 Celsius. Still a bit of debris actually, just at where the safety car is now. Going through that turn 9 right-hander. We'll have at least one more lap behind the safety car. The incident with car 2, Sean Varwig, will be looked at post-race. I suspect that will allow our race control stewards to review the onboard cameras to pick the bones out of what happened to Sean and whichever that other car was. I think it was Sabra Cook actually that was driving past it, driving past in the Kelly Moss car, the blackened dark red machine, but whether that car was involved, of course, we can't say.
No,
as you said, it slows.
Sabra was running right behind Sean Varwig when he had the incident, but I think by the time they came into our view, they're going to turn 9. I think he'd slowed right down and been passed by a whole bunch of cars, so he was just sort of, just pulling it off the racetrack. But Sabra, as a result of that, is now up into the top 10 for the first time And she, of course, was a winner, the winner of the inaugural Porsche Deluxe female driver development driver scheme that came on board with Kelly Moss, Victoria Thomas, a big driving force behind that. She's one of the team principals at Kelly Moss, and she's learning quickly in these cars. She was a star in the karting world with Sabre for many, many years, and she's been trying to break into car racing now for, well, a bunch of years, to be honest, and had the promise, and now up into the top 10 for the first time. She was able to score points in 2 of the first 3 races of the season. So she's gradually gaining speed with experience, and up here in the top 10 for the first time. So hats off there to Sabre Cook.
Yeah, it's done a few bits and pieces, but hasn't had a full season of racing. Real opportunity here with this initiative from Kelly Moss, Victoria Thomas, big driving force behind that, and excellent to see the sponsors getting behind it as well. Yeah. I think the lights might be out on the safety car. I'll check it in a moment. They do sit just behind. They're not on the roof as it were. But it looks the way as everybody's backing up that they're going back to green. We had the word from race control, but no, the safety car, the 911 Turbo, has pulled off. The green flag has been shown, and it's all to do again then for McElrea Racing's Tom Sargent. He'll be happy to see the laps ticking down, but there's still 28.5 minutes to go. And what a great restart by JDX's Will Martin in second place in the dark grey car. Come to the outside, throws the dummy, goes to the inside down into turn 1. There's a little clip, and they both somehow get through, and here comes Riley Dickinson closing up on the back of both of them. What a manoeuvre that was from Will Martin. Went with the right hand side, the outside into turn 1. That was the dummy, moved the leader Tom Sargent across, and then he couldn't move again, of course, in reaction. Fantastic stuff. Meanwhile, back at turn 1, we have someone else who's bounced off the tyres.
Tremendous move there by Will Martin. That was really impressive. The 20-year-old from Battle in Kent in England. He finished 3rd in last year's Porsche Carrera Cup GB, so he's got plenty of experience in these sorts of cars. And that was Kyle Washington.
It was GMG Racing car.
Off there, yeah. At turn 1, but he's got going again, so that's good news.
A slight change of livery for Kai. We normally see that car in yellow and blue. It's a little bit more multicoloured this weekend, which is what threw me off when I first saw that car. But he's carried on, so we're staying green for the moment. So what a run from the man at the front of the field, Will Martin for JDX Racing. Picked his way through that first lap, those first lap incidents, and now leads from Tom Sargent and McElrea Racing in second. It's the white and blue car, the white and green car in third is championship leader, and so far 3 times a winner this season for Kelly Moss, Riley Dickinson. Then it's Jimmy Lieber having a good run for MDK in the white car with the red and black on it. It's number 74, Alex Sedgwick, another Brit, originally from the Midlands. All kinds of bits and pieces of Porsche, including a front valance strip on the run down from 5 to 6. That debris, I presume that'll have come off Kyle Washington's car from where he went in the tyres at turn 1 and to take the turn 5 for it to fall off. It's a little rubber strip that runs underneath the front splitter. Alex Sedgwick doing a great job for JDX and for PT Autosport. And again, they're looking for new talent in both driving, engineering and mechanicking as well. Really interesting that to follow up. See that all about that on their PT Autosport's website. So that's another Brit who's come over to do a bit of driving over here. Tom Sargent with the fastest lap of the race last time around in his quest to get back on terms with Will Martin. I was going to try and get you to tell the story about tyres this weekend, Jeremy, because it has been a little bit different because we had a different qualifying style this weekend. It's only a single 30-minute session where quite often we see 2 sets of tyres used because it qualifies cars for both of the races, it's been a bit changed this weekend, and it's meant a different tyre strategy in the early part of the weekend.
That's exactly right. It's generally a half an hour set qualifying session, and the fastest lap by each driver sets the grid for race 1. The second fastest lap for each driver sets the grid for race 2. For every weekend, the teams have 3 sets of tyres to go from qualifying through the races. There's a nice pass there by that was Baron Chokshi getting past Sabre Cook.
Yeah.
But so generally they run 2 sets in qualifying, then they have 1 new set for one or other of the races. But because it was a shortened session, they split the field this time. So the Pro-Am and Am cars went out first for 13 minutes, I think it was, and then there was a short gap, and then the Pro cars went out for 13 minutes. So it really wasn't time to change tyres. There's Thomas Merrill ducking into pit lane to serve his penalty.
Correct.
So they're all on the same tyre strategy, effectively. And the second fastest laps in that session set the grids for today's race, and it was quite different today, the grid, from yesterday. I really like this one session, just one set of tyres, go for it, get it done. I hope they do this more often, to be honest, because it shuffles up the field a little bit. If everyone runs 2 sets of tyres, it tends to be pretty samey. But yesterday, for example, in 3rd position on the grid for the opening round yesterday was Ryan Yardley. Car number 78 did a great job for Top Racing to do that. But in today's race, his second fastest lap was only 10th on the grid. So he quite different. So he's got a bit more work to do today, as Ryan. He's up into 7th now.
Yeah,
in that number 78 car for Top Racing, and doing very nicely indeed. But this is a super battle out front with this big long train of cars. Top 6 of them still absolutely tied together.
Ryan just trying to get on the back of that top half dozen as they come round to complete lap number 10. It is a time certain race. We started with 40 minutes on the clock. We are coming down to round about half distance. Tom Sargent and Will Martin swapping fastest laps at the front of the field. This time it's Tom Sargent's turn to take it, and he's closed down to within 3.5 tenths. Now, can he do the move down in turn 1? No, he can't. Riley Dickinson. Now, if you're Riley Dickinson with a big points lead and 3 wins behind you, you're watching these 2 guys having a scrap. Do you want to move forward? Well, yes, you do if you can. But he's thinking championship. No doubt about it for Riley Dickinson. Talked to him before the season started, and then again at Sebring. And he will take the points that's on offer here. There's no sense in ending up in the wall and not getting anything, because non-finishes in this season, as ever, will cost you dearly. And it's a big season for the Deluxe Porsche Carrera Cup North America, because along with their IMSA commitments, IMSA is still the sanctioning body, by the way, there's 2 appearances on Formula 1 supports as well, Miami and at Kota, time on the back straight. There's been an impact at turn number 8, which is going to bring out the safety car again as well. I was going to say someone's had a spin and has recovered, but I think it's been another hit to the wall coming out of turn 8 on driver's left, and that is for the number 24 car of Thomas Neveu from JDX Racing, who was well up inside the top 10, and he's broken the left rear suspension, having, as I say, made contact with the wall on driver's left after turn 8, and I don't think that car's going very much further. So this will again bring the field in behind that bright red 911 992 turbo, and Will Martin will be able to cool his heels just a little bit as the time ticks down towards half distance.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, John, and I spoke to Riley this morning and he said exactly that same thing. You know, he's got a really good head on his young shoulders, as the young man from New Braunfels in Texas, just outside of San Antonio. Just 20 years of age, which is hard to believe. He's racing these Porsche now for 4 or 5 years. But yeah, he knows he's in the catbird seat in terms of the championship and everything else that goes with it. Having won the first 3 races of the season, he's just got to be careful. He's got a pretty handy lead coming into this race today. It's already 22 points over Tom Sargent. So as the caution comes out, so he knows he's just got to. He saw what happened the last couple of years, where somebody opened up a big lead in the championship and eventually lost it. Particularly last year with Kai van Berlo, his teammate, of course. So he's very mindful of that. And is that Scott Noble again?
No, that was the number 24 of Thomas Nevert having his off at turn 8. But that was a really weird one because it looked like he got round the corner and then lost it. But there's a big ding.
Snapped sideways, didn't it?
Yeah, there's a big ding right in the middle beside the exhaust pipes under the back of this 992. So he hit the curb on the inside, and then that pitched the car sideways. And then there's another bump there as well, which didn't help. So cause or effect for that rear suspension. I think he's probably done that on the wall, but certainly those curbs at turn 8 are pretty flat, and yet we have seen people bouncing around all over the place. There's a fairly stout hit on the left-hand side, the driver's side of the McElrea racing car. Well, mixed fortunes for that Mooresville, Carolinas-based team across from Australia, and their Australian part of the team won the first race of the Carrera Cup Australia, which was on the Aussie GP support. Just going back to what I was saying about this season, it is a huge season with 2 races at the Miami Grand Prix, 2 races at COTA, which will be the last 2 races of the Porsche Deluxe Carrera Cup North America season. They'll be at Road America with NASCAR, and of course with their IMSA commitments, and also they'll be the headline act at Red Sport Reunion 7 at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in September. So plenty going on for this particular championship. And Riley Dickinson, you mentioned his age there, Jeremy, and that is important because he is also looking to be selected to be the representative from this championship to go into the Young Drivers Shootout, which has produced so much talent down through the years. I'll be held in Europe at the end of the season, and the opportunity there to compete with other selected drivers from other Porsche Carrera Cups around the world, because it is a global formula, all using the same cars and the same Michelin tyres around the world, and to compete against those other drivers to become effectively a Porsche factory driver, a supported Porsche Works driver. And my goodness me, we've seen some talent down the years that has come out of this initiative from Porsche.
Well, we certainly have, and just look at the drivers in the prototype cars now, the Porsche 963s, with Mathieu Jaminet and Patrick Pilet is still driving in the FAF Porsche in the GTD Pro category. I mean, all sorts of drivers over the years. Good to see, by the way, Patrick Long here this weekend.
Yes.
Not driving professionally anymore, but he was driving a Williams in the historic F1 races this weekend. Didn't get a chance to see them, unfortunately. I presume he won. I think he was. I'd be surprised if he didn't. But certainly great to see. I saw him briefly on the grid yesterday, on Friday morning, getting ready to go out for practice, and he had a big thumbs up there. He was grinning from ear to ear. I can see that, even with his full face helmet.
Still holds the LMP2 track record around here. It goes all the way back to 2008 when he was in a Porsche Spider, a 112.3. Very different LMP2 categories nowadays in IMSA. That was when that Porsche prototype was still categorised as a P2. And he's driven just about everything Porsche down through the years, Pat Long. And in fact, he's instrumental in that Porsche Red Sport Reunion 7 that I was talking about earlier on. Earl Bamber came through Porsche Carrera Cup and the various scholarships. Think back far enough, and I do go back quite a long way. I remember David Brettel, former head of Porsche Motorsport North America, actually, set in effect the UPS Porsche Junior team in Porsche Super Cup with the dark brown and gold cars. I'm pretty sure Sasha Masson came through that, who is still a mentor to Porsche Cup drivers around the world and has been doing a little bit of talent spotting. And he was one of the guys to a number of guys who brought Ife to the attention of Porsche Motorsports, and he will be a Porsche 963 driver at Spa next time out the FIA WEC when Hertz Jota Racing get their customer car. So when we talk about a breeding ground for talent, that is not a marketing slogan. You get it, particularly with Porsche. You get it with Porsche as a factory driver, Jeremy. It's a pretty smart career move if you can make that happen.
It certainly is, yes. And just thinking of, as you say, of Patrick Long. When that was just a tremendous breakthrough for him at the time. He was racing Formula Ford cars in the UK. He got the opportunity to effectively audition for that Porsche junior team as it was back then, and look what a career he made for himself. Great opportunity there. There's 8 drivers in this field who are eligible for that junior development initiative, and at the moment the best place of them in this field would be the race leader, of course. That is Will Martin, who's just 20 years of age. Behind him, Tom Sargent, he's 21. Riley Dickinson is 20. Jimmy Libre is another youngster at 22. So the top 4 are all eligible. Alex Cedric is the first one that isn't, and he's only just outside the age limit at age 24.
So coming back to green flag with a little under 14 minutes to go. The green flag back in the air with Tony on the starter stand, and Will Martin does it again, gets a decent jump away. Tom Sargent in the lighter coloured car in second with the blue rear end on that car. They've jumped away from Riley Dickinson. I think he's just giving himself enough room to react to anything in case it happens in front of him. He may have to drive around a Porsche in the middle of the road. He does not particularly want to get tied up in someone else's accident. So it's the gold and black JDX car that leads out for Will Martin through turn 5, getting heat temperature back into the Michelin tyres. And of course that's closed up the whole of the top 10 through turn number 6. Big changes to the surface at turn 6 through the kick at 7 and down to 8. A new concrete patch, then some new asphalt, and then back to concrete again. So 3 surface changes in quick succession through 6 into 7 and then down to 8.
And it's probably created another overtaking opportunity. It makes it a lot smoother going into turn 8.
Totally.
And that's tempted quite a lot of drivers to kind of make a move there on the inside. It's not always worked out particularly well, it looks good.
Elias de la Torres had a problem at turn 5, and he's moving slowly, so he'll drop down from where he restarted. It was 11th, I think, as he went across the line, and the battle for the lead starts to heat up. And this time the dummy thrown by the 17 car of Tom Sargent. Can he get it stopped? I don't think so. Oh, he clips the wall with the right rear. He was in the lead for a few metres, but he's had to drop back in a second. But I'm fairly certain there was contact with the right rear of that car, and the unguarded part, he got so far round the corner that he was well beyond the tyres, and in some way that might be good for him, because if he'd hit the tyres they would have sucked him in. But he's lost him, but no, he hasn't. He's defending into turn 6, and Riley Dickinson has to be careful here in the white and green Kelly Moss car. The debris flag is out at turn 8 for the bits of car that's on the road. It's the red and yellow. That's something on the track that shouldn't be there, often called slippery surface flag, but it could be there for debris as well. 11 minutes to go. Now the question is, what is Tom Sargent feeling from the rear of his car as into the pits comes the number 4? That was De La Torre in the other JDX car. Well, he's going to be annoyed with himself. He had a solid top 10, top 11 going there. He looks like he's clipped the wall on the exit of turn 5. And then there were 26 cars still running. We haven't mentioned the classes because there's been so much going on at the front of the field. Let's quickly check in with them. 12th overall, ACI Motorsports, Mark Bucciaroni leads Pro-Am from Jeff Mosing, their line astern. In our Mark Varmy has John Getz behind him. John didn't get going yesterday, ended up in the flowers turn at the fountain on lap 1. He's in second at the moment in Am. and it's just about a second behind Mark Kawami. So John trying to make up some points from the non-finish yesterday. Wasn't a very happy bunny to be parked there in the foliage.
No, they've had a good battle in this race.
Somebody's lost a tyre. Someone has lost a tyre now.
Oh, shit.
The carcass.
It's just a tyre, it's not a wheel, is it?
Correct. It's the carcass of the tyre right on the turning point for turn 8. Almost looks like they're on a track day. And now I think that must have come off Elias de la Torres' car. And yeah, right rear broken on that car. So he's been in the wall, and the carcass was right up against the left-hand wall, and then it's just rolled gently across the road. And that's quite a big piece of rubber there. That would do some damage. 9 minutes to go.
Yeah, new fastest lap there for our race leader, Will Martin. 20.355 for the Englishman. Tom Sargent keeping pace with him, Ryan Dickinson, Jimmy Libre, Alex Cedric, Grant Torquay, all together that top 6.
Well, it looks as though Tom Sargent got away with that little scrape on the wall in the white and light blue number 17 from McElrea Racing. He's dropped away from the leader just a little bit. Everybody's seen that tyre carcass now, and the flag is out for it. That's what the flag was there for at the exit of turn 5. Check that, turn 6, my apologies, as you turn left from Shoreline onto Pine. Now Riley Dickinson has a few choices to make here. He's got a little bit of breathing space between himself and Jim Libre, but not much. And now he's got Will Sargent within striking distance in front, and then a gap to the leader. So how hard does our championship leader in the 53, the white car with the green stripe across it, how hard does he push? He's keeping...
Not very hard, John, is the answer.
Yeah,
He's quite happy.
I think so.
Points. No question. Chatted to him this morning, it's exactly what he told me. He said, I'm just going to take what he gives me, stay out of trouble. I know how to win this championship because I've seen my teammates do it or not do it. Because his teammate last year, Kai van Berle, looked like a shoe-in for the championship after winning the first, dominated the early part of the season, won the 4 races and ended up losing it to Parker Thompson from JDX. So Riley is determined that will not be the same case this time around.
Jeff Morsing top racing in the rhubarb and custard coloured car, the yellow and dark red machine. Very distinctive turns through turn 8, and Efren Castro behind. That is the Pro-Am battle there. Car ahead of them, the green car with the green on it. That is Marco Cironi for ACI.
Where's Sabra Cook?
Yeah,
Sabra Cook's in the pits. She was running in the 9th position ahead of Stefan Brzezinski. But, she's heading to the pits. That's a shame. That was a really nice run for Sabra. That'll give her confidence, and that's exactly what she needs in these sort of cars. Very different to anything she's driven before.
Still with the number 43 leading the AM category. That's MDK Motorsports Mark Kawami. He's the M and the D and the K. And he's got a car between himself and John Getz now. As there's a pass. Oof, you fella, that was very tight indeed at turn 1, and a big sideways moment for Jeff Morsing as he loses the position to the yellow and the red and blue car behind. And now they've swapped back again. Not sure what was going on there. Efren Castro, who got through momentarily. Now side by side.
It's a good little battle. Yeah, it's a great battle for the lead in that Pro-Am class. Marco Cironi, Jeff Mosey and Efren Castro have been nose to tail throughout this race. And you talked about it in the AM class, the car between Mark Kawami and John Getz. Well, that's Thomas Merrill, who served that penalty a while ago for the earlier contact. He's working his way back up through the field, up into 16th now. I'm sure he'll get past Mark Kawami pretty soon. There's a new fastest lap of the race. When 19.716. That's a good effort for Riley Dickinson in third place. Only a tenth of a second outside the lap record set last year by Kai van Berlo.
Yeah, Gibbs said that was really smart driving by Riley. There's a point for fastest lap, isn't there? So
yes, indeed.
He dropped back a little bit from Tom Sargent to give himself room, and then has just put Tom Sargent's just put his fastest lap of the race in with a 20.2, but Riley Dickinson was half a second quicker because he'd given himself some room. Top three then absolutely together, with Riley Dickinson again just giving a little bit of respectful pace. He's dropped space back to the two leaders. That has put Tom Sargent back on terms with the leader with just under 5 minutes to go. Also a cracking battle going on at the bottom end of the top 10. Stefan Rosinski, Travis Wiley, Jake Peterson, all close together there, battling for 9th, 10th and 11th, just ahead of that battle for Pro-Am. But at the front of the field, Tom Sargent, second in the championship, with the championship leader behind him. And I'll ask the same question about Tom. Tom's not had a win yet, neither has Will, and so that is something they will want to do. But once again, you've got to ask yourself about championship aspirations here, particularly for Tom Sargent, Jeremy.
Yeah, true enough. Tom's definitely going to go for it. He wants to get this win if he possibly can. It's been a super battle between Will Martin and Tom Sargent in this race so far. By the way, just briefly on the Pro-Am, it must have been a mistake by Efren Castro last time around, because it cost him 6 or 7 seconds. He's fallen back 3 or 4 positions. So now Marco Cironi he's got a couple of seconds in hand over Jeff Mosing after Mosing and Castro had a little contretemps.
Big slide from Riley Dickinson there, and he's under pressure all of a sudden from Jimmy Libra, who goes round the outside at turn 6. That's a brave manoeuvre. Jimmy has to back out of it. Riley defending to the right hand side of the road, and that's going to bring Alex Sedgwick, sorry Alex, into it as well. Big defensive move thrown early on the back straight at Seaside, and that means he's going to have to steer there now. He drifts gently in the back in the middle of the road for turn 9, the right-hander Riley Dickinson, but he's got his hands full now, and that all came from just slightly spinning up the rear Michelins as he came out of turn 5, and he gets a little bump and run into the final corner, but somehow holds on to third position. This is getting really fraught for the championship leader, with now 3 cars behind him. His Grant Torquay puts his fastest lap of the race in to get onto the back of this 4-car scrap for what is now second place.
Yeah, and granted, he'd fallen back a bit from that little battle, but he made it up again on that last lap. A really good lap for him, 1:20.5. That was indeed the fastest lap of anybody amongst that top group. Fractionally quicker than Travis Wiley in kind of a 77, who's now up into 9th position, having fallen down as far as 17th. Actually, no, he started the problem on the opening lap and fell all the way back to pretty much last place. So Travis Wiley, having had that contact yesterday, the penalty for the contact that he had with Michael McCarthy, has really done a super job today for Top Racing to move his way all the way through the field inside the top 10 now. Helped with 77.
Helped with a little bit of carnage, in fairness, but you've still got to be in it to win it. You're absolutely right. He's picked his way through there, Jeremy. No, I'm not decrying what he's done
passed
himself.
a lot of cars.
He has passed a lot of cars.
Yeah.
Meantime, the leaders with white flag next time around, I think. No, we're not going to get it this time around. So there'll be this one and one more. So just under 4 miles then for the 4th round of the Porsche Deluxe Carrera Cup North America. And the 2 young chargers at the front of the field. Oh, big defence thrown into turn 1, and once again they're both really close to the white painted concrete wall on driver's right. Will Martin for JDX in the black and gold car.
He's going to have to be careful here, John. He was sort of wavering there in his line going into turn 1. You can't do that. You've got to pick your line and stick with it. And it was a bit marginal, I thought. But I'm sure the worst I think you'll get is a warning at this stage.
Very different attitude towards defending from European drivers to what we see here in the US. And Jeremy and I have had many long discussions about it. And again, Sargent is brushing the wall, this time at the other side of the car, just straightening up the other rear wheel arch on his number 17 McElrea Racing car, with Kelly Moss's Riley Dickinson still fighting the good fight. Jimmy Libra is right there. Alex Sedgwick has dropped back just a little bit as we come to the white flag with 16 seconds remaining on the clock as they exited the final corner. Across the line now, and the white flag shown enthusiastically as ever by Tony on the starter stand. So, turn 1, turn 6, oh, hang on the flasher. Tom Sargent's on the flasher. Oh, goes into the pit lane and he's going wide, and that's it. He's given that one up. That's cost him any chance, surely, of getting the race victory now, and he's been out onto the dirty part of the track. That's brought Riley Dickinson right back into it. But Riley, I think, is more looking in his mirrors for Jimmy Libra at the moment, with Alex Sedgwick right in there as well. Grant Talty making up the top 6. Ryan Yardley still 7th. Vern Chosky in 8th for Wright Motorsport. Travis Wiley in 10th. Jake Pedersen for Reed Racing making up the top 10. Good run for Jake.
Well, very good run for Jake. I mean, very little experience. He's 22 years of age. He's a musician, and he's also studying at the Berklee College of Music in Boston. But very little racing. He loves his racing. He loves dogs too, by the way. So there's a feather in his cap, as far as I'm concerned. But a really good run for Jake. I mean, he hasn't been in the points at all yet in his first 3 races. That's not surprising. He's done very little racing. But in the top 10 he is now. That was a mistake.
No, really good driving by Todd Parriott, actually. GMG Racing, who's getting out the way of the leaders. Blue flags out. And round 4 of the Porsche Deluxe Carrera Cup North America at the front of the field is a debut victory. A maiden victory, should I say, for Will Martin. And, Nola Sport pitched sideways. Tom Merrill getting Stefan Rosinski's bumper in his right rear, but somehow holds on to it and will come through and hold on to 12th position. 10th position, excuse me. Jake Pedersen right at the end too. There, dropping a position from Rosinski, so that was the little contretemps right at the end. Well, some new faces and some new names at the front of the championship this year, but Riley Dickinson with 3rd position will continue to lead the championship, albeit with a slightly reduced margin to Tom Sargent, who finished 2nd in front of him, so we'll close down by the difference in points between 2nd and 3rd. But Will Martin takes his first victory for JDX in the overall. Marco Cironi heads Jeff Mosing and Efren Castro, who fought right back onto the tail of those two at the end after making a mistake and dropping way back. That's ACI Top Racing and Kelly Moss in Pro-Am. And in Am Markwami, by half a second or so from John Getz. Scott Noble, what a story he's had this weekend. Destroyed a car earlier on in the week and has had a couple of decent results for MDK Motorsports in the number 10 car with the spare car. I've got to say though, that was I mean, if you're going to win a motor race with an overtake, the way that Will Martin did it, throwing the dummy to the right and then diving to the left into turn 1 on Tom Sargent, absolutely brilliant. Tom Sargent tried to repay the compliment at the same point on the circuit and ended up, well, very close to a much bigger disaster. Did scrape the wall on both sides of the rear. I suspect there'll be a little bit of livery work to do on both sides of the McElrea Racing. But Riley Dickinson doing exactly what he told Jeremy Shaw and me what he was expecting to do for the season, and that is take the points on offer. It didn't go his way today, so his winning run is halted for now, but he still leads the championship. How about Will Martin, the man from Kent in the south of England? Some experience in Carrera Cup in the UK, in Carrera Cup GB, takes his first victory here in the Deluxe Porsche Carrera Cup North America. I thought that was a measured drive, very aggressive when he needed to be, and roadies look a little bit perhaps with Tom Sargent pressing very hard, but that was good racing at the front by those 3 young drivers.
Tremendous race, I thought that was, and hats off there to Will Martin. Gets his first race of the season, first win of the season, then for JDX Racing as well. It'll tighten up the championship just a little bit, as you say. Unofficially, Riley Dickinson with the fastest race lap today, which has earned a point. We'll have 101 to the 83 of Tom Sargent, who's finished second now in 4 consecutive races. That's not a bad entry to North American racing. It is. And Will Martin with the first win on 70 points. So those have been the top 3. They're well clear of everybody else. I think Alex Cedric, Jimmy Libre will actually move up to the 4th position on 34 points, just ahead of a whole string of drivers. Several guys scored their first points of the season there, including Jake Peterson, a really good run there to finish eventually just outside the top 10 because he got pipped by Thomas Merrill, as you said, right on the line, but a good run for him. And yeah, that was a great motor race. In the Pro-Am class, Marco Cironi, I think will keep the win today. Hard earned for ACI Motorsport, so good job by him. Starting from the pole position, led all the way, but not by very much. Jeff Mosing, who's turning some quick laps at the end. Actually, Efren Castro finished 3rd in the class behind Jeff Mosing and did set the fastest lap in the closing stages. Mark Kawami won AM again, but only by just over half a second from John Getz, so a really good battle there as well.
Just a quick shout out to Kyle Washington, who had some problems. He actually took the fastest lap of the race towards the end in Pro-Am, but then got pipped by Efren Castro, who was chasing back towards Marco and Jeff for that 3rd place finish. Well, the streets of Long Beach once again providing action and excitement for the 2 rounds of the Porsche Deluxe Carrera Cup North America. Riley Dickinson doing Riley things yesterday and taking the race victory. A fraught opening couple of laps which saw a number of cars facing in the wrong direction. The parts truck is going to be busy again this weekend. Will Martin takes his first victory overall for JDX Racing in AM. It was Marco Cironi in Pro-Am, but Riley Dickinson continues to lead the championship.